Hi, I'm Joe from PH Tennis, and I'm super excited because we've got the new Yonex VCORE version 7 in stock and ready to play. So, first impressions, I don't love the paint job, but then I often don't with the Yonexes, but I do love Yonex rackets. I'm a Yonex user myself, play with an E-Zone, love the previous versions of the VCORE, so really excited to play this. Not so bothered about the way it looks, really interested in how it plays. Now, what's new in this frame? Well, they've widened the top corners of the racket, giving a larger sweet spot. We've got a thinner frame around the top of the head, adding more maneuverability. We'll see whether that pays off on court when we try it out. There's also a redesign in the throat. You've got Flex Force, which is Yonex's tech in the throat, and that's been redesigned, give greater stability. So we'll see. Again, when we get out there, we'll see if it works. We've also got, the grommets have been changed. Now we've got a silicone and oil infused grommet, and this is adding 26% less friction, which is going to allow the racket to snap back into place after contact. Again, we'll see what the tech does when we actually start playing with it. So we've strung some up with some Polytour Pro, and we're going to try out both the 98 and the 100 on court and see how it goes. In terms of the difference between the 98 and the 100, there's a big difference in the frame size. You've got a width range on the 100, 25.3 down to 22, and it's from 23 to 21 on the 98. So a much thicker frame in the 100. Again, we think this is going to give you more power, a slight reduction in the control, but more power on the 100. Let's see how it goes.
We have just been playtesting the new Yonex VCORE. This is the 7th version of the racket, or the 2023 version. There are 3 ranges that have been released, the 95, the 98 and the 100, and today we've been comparing the 2 most popular versions, the 98 and the 100. So just to give it some context, the 95, obviously that's the square inch of the head, so it's a very similar weight to the other 2, but that smaller head makes it even more of a control frame than the others. At the other end of the spectrum, you have the 100, and the 100 square inch head, 300 grams, so a little bit lighter, and it's definitely more powerful, the most powerful one in this new VCORE family, in this new VCORE range.
First impressions from playing with it, absolutely love it. It's very similar to the old one, it's very playable. I think with this one, what you're getting with this racket is you're getting a lot of dwell time and a lot of control.
I really liked it. I felt almost with the 98 that I could swing as hard as I could and not really make any mistakes. So definitely a control racket over a power racket.
I know it's in the spin range, but I think that for me, you've got massive amounts of control. You can swing at it and keep the ball in the court, but it's still going to give you enough, if you are blocking, if you're pushing the ball around a little bit, that means that you're going to get something out of the racket.
I mean, I thought the dwell time was exceptional, so like it almost felt like the ball was like hooking onto the racket. It just felt like he had so much time to strike that ball.
Because it's built for spin, it reacts very well when you try and give it any, whether that's a big heavy top spin, whether that's cutting under the ball for drop shots for the slice. You really get a lot out of the racket, as you'd expect.
Volleys, really maneuverable, great kind of punch, ball leaves a string bed really nicely. Generating a lot of spin. I think that's partly due to the string and the nature of the frame. And serving, like when you nail it, it goes. There is definitely the chance to add some pop to your serve with it as well.
In terms of generating spin, I didn't feel like it could generate as much spin as maybe like an Aero or something like that, but definitely enough to keep me competitive in the point.
It's definitely a top spin player's frame. It's definitely an aggressive baseliner who generates lots of pace off the ground, but wants that bit of control, but that help generating that kind of attacking topspin. This is going to be a great option for you. It's similar in that sense to the T-Fight, which generated a similar amount of spin, but from being head heavy. So by having that extra weight in the head, you kind of get loads of spin. This is designed differently, so you don't feel like you're lugging something like loads of weight away from your body on this, you generate the spin from the construction of the frame, and you can definitely feel the quality in it when you contact the ball.
On my serve, getting loads and loads of pop. As you may know, I play with an E-zone, and it's not generating the same amount of power as an E-zone, but you wouldn't expect it to. That's not what it's for. But you are getting plenty of pop. I serve plenty of aces against Josh and against Javi, so definitely getting pop with the serve, as well as a little bit of feel and a little bit of touch. Really nice on the serve.
Compared to the old one, personal preference, I much prefer the colour pattern on this one. I prefer the darker red. I love the shade of kind of dark grey and the blue. I think it's a lot more exciting than the older one. In terms of how it plays, yeah, definitely felt there was way more control, way more dwell time on the ball.
Probably personally lean towards the 100 because I generally use stiffer, more powerful rackets, and the 100 gave me that kind of comfort that I'm used to in terms of having kind of a shorter, jabbier swing, especially on kind of returner serve, punches, jabs, those kind of shots. The 100 gave me not effortless power, because it's definitely not a power racket, but more than the 98 did. In saying that, when I started to open out and go for a bit more on my forehand, or really trying to like rip up the ball and generate loads of topspin, you could definitely feel the benefits of that 98 305 ground, that slightly bit more weight, slightly more control in its balance point, and you could really feel the level of spin you could create, which gave you that bit of control. So there was a time when you're really going well and you kind of felt like you couldn't miss.
Yeah, so especially the 98 compared to the 100, definitely felt with the 98 I could get a lot of accuracy, so I can hit the different corners of the box.
I usually use a 98, so I'm used to playing the 98. And between the 98 and the 100 on these new VCOREs, I think what you get with the 98 is what you'd expect. You get loads and loads of control. Whereas if you go up to the 100, you're losing a touch of that control, albeit it's a control, it's a control and spin racket. But with the 100, you're going to get a little bit more power.
We've strung these with Yonex's Polytour Pro 125, which, if you watch our top 5 string reviews, is one of our favourite strings anyway. But in this, it really, really works well. It is freshly strung, so obviously we're getting all those kind of polyester benefits in terms of control and spin from that. If you put a softer string in, I think you get great power and feel, and you get spin from the frame, so that could be a great option to try.
So in comparison to like the rest of the Yonex range, so definitely not power hitting like the E-zone, but in terms of control and feel and using it for drop shots, for slices, yeah, really, really, really good to use this one because it almost feels like it does it for you.
I think on balance, it's definitely an upgrade. The old VCORE I was really, really fond of as well. I thought it was a very good all-rounder racket, and I think this still sits in that category, although to Yonex it is their spin machine. And to other people it feels more of a control frame. I think it's a really good all-rounder, and I think it goes up and plays up against very nicely against, say, a head speed, a pure strike, a Wilson blade, a Technofiber T-Fi, as I've said, for that kind of modern day long swing, heavy attacking topspin, aggressive baseliner, trying to get on the front foot, trying to dominate points, trying to drive your opponent back off the court, is definitely a weapon that you will get lots of joy from.
Good for touch, it's good. It's a good amount of power, it's lots of control, it's lots of spin. I felt like this was the best control I've got out of any racket that I've played with in the last year. Superb.
We play tested the new VCORE and loved it. As you see, you've seen our comments on court. We then had to go and coach, so just played another little bit this morning and finishing on what we said. I think the main thing for me as a takeaway is the dwell time, and it's been talked about a lot, and some people sort of laugh about dwell time and is that a real thing, or how do you describe it? To me, the dwell time is a feeling of the ball being on the strings for longer. Now this might be because of the new silicone grommets, it might be because of the new design in the throat and the flex force, but it certainly feels like the ball stays on the strings a long, long time, which gives you massive amounts of feel and a massive amount of comfort. And I think this is really evident in the VCORE. During our play test, we used the old version, the new version, both 98 and 100, and the E-zone, just to give us a kind of overview of where that racket sits and the way it works in between both the old version of the VCORE, the new version of the 98 and 100, and in the E-zone, just to see how that racket fits in amongst the range, and how the racket responds differently to those previous versions, and a different racket for Yonex. So as we thought, the two rackets do play quite differently. The thicker frame on the 100 and the bigger head size do mean that you have more power and sacrifice a tiny bit of control. The 98 is a real control racket with some spin, which I loved. Javi and I both prefer the 98. Josh would probably lean more towards the 100, although love both. So it's really a preference per player. This is a spin racket in a control frame, and I think that's where the difference. There is some power, but it's not. I would say with the Extreme or with the Aero, it's a spin racket in a power frame, and this is not. This is a spin racket in a control frame. Again, you are still going to get power, but that level of control it's right up there with the control rackets of being incredibly easy to use, incredible to make balls, and giving you that control, giving you that feel, giving you that touch. Really exceptional. We've had some comments previously that sort of say, oh, you know, all this new tech is, if you can't play with the old existing racket, there's problems in the game. Well, that may be true. There may be pre-existing problems in your game. A racket isn't going to fix that. But I think it's important to note that manufacturers of tennis rackets listen to players. They listen to their pros, they listen to all the players that they play with, and they make improvements. They adapt their rackets and they upgrade them. And this is an upgrade on a previously brilliant racket already. This is still an upgrade. So there you have it. The new VCORE is excellent in both the 98 and the 100. It's the 98 for me. Fantastic rackets. Give them a try. I think you'll love them. Subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram for more racket reviews, more information that you might need to know to improve your tennis game. Cheers.
Pop. I said plenty of aces against Josh and against Javi, so definitely getting popped with the serve.
That is complete by the way.